Hello everyone, this is GT Time. I'm your moderator, Kyle Bosman, and joining us as always is the uniquely talented, knowledgeable panel, including Brandon Jones.
Hello.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey.
And Michael Damiani.
You're getting quicker at saying that.
You know what? I skipped the word "and" though. I said uniquely talented, knowledgeable panel.
Sorry, it was so quick, it sounded good, and I didn't catch that.
That's like the running theme of like coming back every week. Will Kyle correctly introduce the show ever?
It's not as easy as it looks.
It's not. It's so hard. Everyone, we are back in the conference room. This is, again, not by choice. We keep getting kicked out of the room we normally record the show in. But this is where we are. I like it. Our noise doesn't bounce around as much as in the other room, I guess.
As in the other room?
Yeah. And I mean, we have this
I
cool
don't know.
little GT logo. I'm not sure if it fits in the
really
wide
visible
shot.
in the shot, but yeah.
Can we get it in the wide shot real quick?
There it is.
And for everyone listening, just imagine the old GT logo bolted to a brick wall. Huge, and it's huge. Brandon, do you remember when that was made?
When that structure was made? No, I don't recall the year. It didn't impact me that emotionally.
That didn't impact you emotionally to have like your logo and like a physical manifestation of this thing that you co-founded?
I think an office full of employees is a little more, emotional than a big thing of wood. But, I remember the booth at E3. I think maybe that was the big crazy moment. Seeing guys construct stuff at E3 and making a big sign that said GameTrailers. I think
You had a GameTrailers booth?
the first the year we got bought 06, I think 06 or 07.
Yeah,
and that was surreal. Just sitting like at E3, just like eating a pizza, just like nobody has any idea who I am, and I'm sitting across here. So that was fun.
That is really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's weird because we don't have that logo anymore, so it's confusing.
It's the old logo,
You're confusing the brand, which is not a good idea.
I'm sorry that I showed that to everyone then. Also, I guess before we should get started, me and Brandon have a bet to settle. Last week we made a bet about which video would get more views. Top 10 time travel games, top 10 man babes.
By this point, by the time we started recording the next GT time.
Man babes could not overtake time travel games.
It got really close.
It got so close. It got scary close.
They both got 6 digits.
Yeah.
They both broke 100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost a tie. But I still won.
They both did well.
Yep.
Basically, as a result of that, I had to put the word awesome in my entry for top 10 3DS games, which you can see on GameTrailers.com. But I'm not saying what I wrote, but if you hear the word awesome in one of the entries, that's the one I had to write.
I'm going to specifically, I'm copying that script, so that'll be the only awesome in that entire script, I assure you. So when you hear it, you'll know that.
That's the bet Kyle lost.
Yep.
Yeah, fine. Let's just get started with the show. I'm still a little sour about it. I can't believe time travel games had a good week, actually.
Yeah.
It really picked up.
There's some other mysterious bet that I don't know what even the result of that is.
Oh, Michael Huber and I bet on what your score for Trials would be, and I guessed it exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I bet too much. People are actually getting concerned that I have like a gambling addiction.
You also promoted the show on this show, The Countdown, and even with that, man babes couldn't do it.
Stop it. You won fair and square. Just have that.
I don't think I'm ever going to win another bet on the show, so I just want to soak it up.
Our first news story this week. Sony is selling all of their Square Enix stock. It amounted up to, I think, $47.1 million US, what they sold. Damiani, are you concerned for Sony?
Sony needs cash. This is like reminiscent of when they sold the building last year.
Last year they sold their building
like
for
$1 billion something.
over $1.1 billion US. They're building in New York.
Not yet in US dollars.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's just a move by Sony just to get some more assets, financial assets in their pocket because they haven't been doing so well lately. And Sony's stuff hasn't. I mean, there's been some exclusives to Square Enix stuff. There's been some exclusives, but I mean, they've been going multi-platform for a while now. I think it was twofold. It was one, they wanted more money, and it didn't make sense to keep investing in them anymore because they were going multi-platform anyway. Plus, the third kind of scarier thing is maybe that they just didn't have much faith in Square Enix anymore. While we championed Bravely Default and we championed The Realm Reborn on an earlier episode because those did well, doesn't completely wipe away what Square Enix has been doing for roughly the past decade, which is making really poor decisions and losing a lot of money, especially with Eidos and hearing how well Tomb Raider sold and their other games and Hitman, and they still didn't make a profit off those. The management at Square Enix is just not doing the best job.
Really, I thought the acquisition was very successful. Of like getting what they got Tomb Raider, they got Hitman, no Thief. You're right. Maybe some of those aren't all hits.
They got those good games, but remember there was the whole thing that they sold so well, but like they weren't profitable because Square Enix mismanaged the production and the marketing for that. Like they just.
Well, I think Tomb Raider eventually did become profitable with the definitive edition and stuff like that. I mean, they've kind of backpedaled on those statements. I think partly because of everyone's backlash and you're like, what did you expect?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's just. It seems weird. I almost feel like somebody just looked at all of their investments and they're like, hey, why do we have this anymore? Why are we invested in Square Enix? Like, I feel like it probably goes back to, the early days when, Square was just making Sony games. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, let's invest in these guys. They're doing great stuff for us. And now it's like Final Fantasy is a multi-platform franchise.
And they don't get nearly any exclusives anymore, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's been a very long time since there was a Square Enix Sony exclusive. Can we count Final Fantasy 14, I guess?
I mean, just because it's only on Sony platforms for consoles, but it's on PC.
Yeah.
And they said why it's not on like Xbox. They just didn't want an online game that uses a closed infrastructure. They don't want people have to pay a service fee on top of the service fee.
It's not,
they learned from 11. Like they didn't really like that.
So it's not like they love Sony.
Yeah, I think the biggest tell was when 15 went. Everyone's like, or versus 13 at the time. Like there's no way that's going multi-platform. That's like Nomura's baby. He lives a Sony loyalist. Blah blah blah. All that nonsense. And then. Boom, coming to Xbox One and PS4, and same with Kingdom Hearts. There you go. They're coming multi-platform. Like Square Enix can't afford to do that anymore. And I think, the Bloodworth said someone probably just looked at the books like, this doesn't really make sense anymore. We need money. Like we don't need to be like putting this money into this anymore.
Brandon, if you owned a buttload of Square Enix stock, what would it take you to hold on to it?
I think it's not so much about the quality of the games because, Kingdom Hearts is going to sell a lot. 15 is going to sell a lot. Like, there are a lot of awesome things to look forward to. The sequel to Bravely Default, when that comes, stateside, like, that's going to sell a lot. But when is that going to happen? Who the hell knows? Probably a long time from now.
Sure.
And I think they just... I think they do a poor job communicating. I mean, 14 is really great, but in the whole debacle of the 14, the initial launch, they just did a bad job communicating to people. And so I don't think it's Sony saying there's no future for Square Enix or we don't see a future financially for our association with them, but more like when are these things going to happen? Is it smart for us this year? Looking ahead at 14 as a fiscal year. It's like none of those games. We're not going to see any of those games this year. So what is Square doing? What is their?
Or it's just again, it's not like Square is going to rocket into the stratosphere. So they have as much chance of losing money on those stocks as they have as gaining it. It's not like it's a sure bet or anything.
That bums me out. You're right. As much as I would like for Square Enix to, would you say skyrocket out of the stratosphere? You're right. It is unlikely to happen. And so I guess you're right. You're kind of just dumping it before it gets worse, I suppose.
Or it's now it's kind of maybe stable to where it's like okay, it's probably not going to tank, but it's not going to get better either. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like there's anything that's going to be significant in terms of bringing value to that.
So let's get some yen. Y'all like that phrase? Let's get some yen. No, clearly not. Met with stark silence. Our other big news story this week: Bungie fired Marty O'Donnell, who's their music guy, their composer, and I think he did a lot of other sound stuff as well. Brandon, you're nodding emphatically as if you agree with their decision.
He was the sound director, as far as I know.
Sound director,
he was
right?
Audio with Bungie was him.
Yeah, so
he was the head of everything.
Why are you so excited about this?
I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
This is really weird. I don't care when people leave, when executives leave, because who knows, man? Who knows what wacky conversations people have and what weird decisions about what sequels are approved and what's not. But he was a creative director of the audio portions of some of the best shooters that I've ever played. Certainly some of the best shooters I've ever played with the best damn audio. Mm-hmm. And so I'll make a parallel. It's like this John Williams fear that I had, where I grew up, thinking Star Wars was pretty cool, but the John Williams score, which just blew my mind. And then Indiana Jones happened and all this stuff. And then the prequels are announced for Star Wars, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to die right before the last one. And then some douchebag's going to be brought in to do this score, and I don't have to stick with this thing. And it's just so bizarre for him to start Destiny and then take off. And then some other guy, You know, it's like the Simpsons theme was originally written by Tim Burton, you know, or Danny Elfman. I don't know if people know that, but it's like just weird for one person to start something, and then when executives leave, I don't really care, but I'm very, very curious about like what happened. How did he have a falling out with this project? It's got to be the project, because that's all they're doing, right?
I guess the crazy thing is we should mention that like it is explicitly him getting fired. His tweet was, "I'm saddened to say that Bungie's board of directors terminated me without cause on April 11th, 2014. That's not what you say when you're just leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing, too, is, like, the Bungie side of it is, like, super weird and happy. And it's like, we're saying farewell to a dear old friend and, you know, hope you all the best, you know, but it's, you know, I mean, obviously the person that wrote that is probably not the person that was responsible for firing him, but it's weird. It's very weird. And I guess, to me, I'll be curious to see what they do from here, because will they hire somebody to take his place, or, you know, is this just like another like kind of nail in the coffin for like staff composers? You know, it's like more and more people are just, you know, taking composers and basically, you know, it's like a freelance gig. You know, project by project they hire different composers.
No, so what is like a typical relationship like for like a composer with a video game?
I mean, it varies, but, you know, in the past it used to be that, like, every company had their composers, right? Like, you just hired, you know, a composer or a couple of composers. Like, Rare had a group of guys.
Sure.
And, you know, Nintendo has their guys that are, you know, always working on Nintendo games. You know, but there's a lot of, you know, people now where they just hire a composer for that game, you know, and the composer more or less works out of his garage.
Really? And then probably works on several different games because of that.
Yeah, it's juggling games with all kinds of different people.
But like that person didn't sit in on like the voice samples for Cortana, you know,
right.
Like Marty did. Like he was there the whole time.
He did everything.
So, I mean, not everything. Obviously, they have a huge team of people producing all this stuff. But
right.
I think, and you know, correct me in the wrong. You know, I'll be crucified in the comments, of course, if I'm wrong. But like, I thought he was the creative director, just overseeing all that stuff.
Sure.
So it's weird that Destiny. Do we have a launch date? Is it happening this year?
It is happening this year. I don't think we have a launch date yet.
So we don't really know.
Fall,
so that's really cloudy, and so it's just a weird place to let him go. Like it seems like it's them saying we don't want you to be around for Destiny. Like we want to bring somebody else in for the sound. Like that, you know, it's like it seems like a weird thing to be like a really touchy subject, a point of contention. I wonder if he was involved in something else, or I wonder if I don't know. They just had a falling out for some weird reason. Again, you know, it's not to be repetitive, but I normally do not care in the slightest when people leave companies, but this has me puzzled.
Well, it's interesting what Blood says, that they might not even replace the position as someone who is staffed, and this person controls all of these things. And maybe, I don't want to project anything, but, you know, yeah, I guess that is a lot of responsibility to put on one person.
Especially for something like Destiny.
Damiani, how important do you think a game's music is to its identity?
Pretty damn important. I have a feeling that, like, I mean, there was a good amount of people who were looking forward to listening to his score in Destiny, and now there's going to be a little bit of concern. I mean, I don't know if anything's been put out there.
I'm guessing most of that work is done, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Well, at this point, you know, most of your audio work is going to be done, and whoever was left under him will probably be able to finish it off.
I think in this case, though, this is clearly the first game in a series.
Right.
And it is really weird that, like, you know, the next game, this person will be working off maybe some things that Marty had, but generally it'll be a whole different person.
You think about, like, the Game of Thrones theme, and, like, when you first heard that, like, oh, that's a great tune, and now it's, like, again and again and again, you know, 4 years later, and, like, them reworking that theme into different parts of episodes and hearing different instruments play it, being like, oh, it's so poignant, you know, and it's like, he's gone, you know. What they're saying the 10-year plan for Bungie. 10 years later, like, he's doing something. Imagine what he's going to be doing 10 years from now. You know, and how distant he'll be from that product that is still using his theme, unless they like trash it or what. But there's no way for us to know. Again, it's really if they did or if they didn't. I think he probably produced the stuff for the trailers because he used to write all the trailer music for the Halo trailers before they came out.
He did. I made fun of the music in the trailer, and then someone on Twitter said, "How dare you?"
What the hell's wrong with you, Kyle?
Yeah. So he did do the trailer music even, and so it is. I mean, the upcoming trailers will have some other composer working on them most likely.
Totally. And like you were commenting on earlier, is that going to be somebody that they're like, okay, Marty's out, this new guy come in and do everything Marty did, or we want to take more control over this and not have his involvement so we can have more freedom creatively and bring in like 2 or 3 guys that can just do this stuff. Here, you do the battle music, you do the town music, you do some trailer stuff and promotional stuff.
Yeah.
Done.
Exactly.
Who knows? I don't know if there's no way to know.
Are there any other game series that are this attached to their composer, where the composer is so much of an identity to a series?
That's a good trivia question. I don't know if off the top of my head.
I'm most curious what Blood's answer is.
I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, BioShock obviously is, Gary Scheinman, which is an interesting story because he doesn't really do video games for the most part, but he's done BioShock and he's done a great job on both of those. I mean, a lot of people point to Jack Wall for the first 2 Mass Effect games, but I really enjoyed 3 as well, even though the new guys they brought in kind of had their own take on things.
And then Final Fantasy guy, I can't think of his name.
Uematsu is huge in Final Fantasy,
but he doesn't.
I feel like
he doesn't do a lot of stuff.
Well, that's
anymore,
the thing
right?
is like since they've not used him as much, then that music feels like it's sort of lost some of its identity.
Sure.
Or they're just like remixing his old themes. And doing heavy metal chocobo crap.
Yeah.
And then of course again with all the guys at Nintendo, I mean those guys have they've stuck it out and they keep writing music for those games. I mean they have some junior guys here and there, but you still see a lot of the same guys. Koji Kondo. Yeah,
he's probably staffed. He's probably got a sweet deal, right?
Oh yeah, he's definitely staffed.
Yeah, exactly. Weird that position has changed so much throughout the years, I guess. Where I think everyone, as you said, started off staff, and now we're all going to have freelance composers just doing their thing. And I guess, in a weird way, I'm getting broad for a second. I didn't plan on this. Big games, they don't like their games being tied to one person. They don't want one person to have control over it. They want it to see it as like, oh, there's no one individual who's in control of this. That seems to me more and more that's happening. Damiani, do you get what I mean by that?
And I get that just because they want. It's probably just a company that owns the property wants to just be careful if that person ever departs, like a name is not attached to it, so you don't have the fallout.
Yeah.
Like imagine if like Hideo Kojima was to leave Konami.
It would destroy that company.
Like no one, like I don't think anyone would care about Metal Gear for a while. Like they would have like almost an insurmountable, task ahead of them to convince people to like the next Metal Gear if Kojima just like bailed on them. I think that happens all the time. I mean, even on some like not as big projects, when like Ueda left from Last Guardian, like when that happened, and everyone's like, like is Last Guardian going to be good or anything? Because he was contract to finish it, and then like the fallout from that is like that's what happens. Like when everyone leaves these companies, you get freaked out. Like, oh crap, like that person was pretty important. I don't know if I'm going to care about this series. And then this company is stuck with this like valuable brand, but this name's attached to it, and you're like, what crap? We have like a PR nightmare on our hands. We got to like either go poach someone else who's a big name to be attached to this to win back confidence. Like I can only imagine that's like a nightmare, but. Yeah, I mean, that kind of sucks, though. If it is, like, I mean, no game is, like, one person. Like, I don't think it's one person's responsible for it. But clearly, like, it got direction from someone. And if you're, like, the creator of a series, like, I think it kind of stinks with this trend now that they're trying to, like, push, people's names off of stuff or, like, keep it, like, if you're going to depart, we're not going to, like, we're not have to do damage control or something like that.
Well, I mean, I see, like, if you look at Assassin's Creed, when that started, like, that was very much Jade Raymond and Patrice thing.
Yeah.
And now it's, who knows? Who's in charge of Assassin's Creed right now? I don't know who that guy is.
And Ubisoft loves that. They love that you don't know who that guy is.
I mean, we also live in a social age, so, if you tie somebody's name to it that has a Twitter account and then they make some statement about some religious thing or some, gender thing or, some stupid thing, then that's somehow tied to the game.
That really bums me out because, like, how you spoke about John Williams, where it's like you tie him so much to those series.
Right.
It seems like we can't have that for video games.
Unless unless you really know that person involved. If you really love a lot of things, you can follow it.
Yeah, I mean, like, Aonuma is still very tied to Zelda.
Sure.
And
What else? No, keep going. We don't
No,
have
it's
time.
all
What
right.
else
It
is
is.
thing? We don't. You know, it's weird. It's like
there's still definitely big names out there. It's just
Yeah.
that
They're
you know,
liabilities.
I think it's more in terms of these annualized games, where they do have, Assassin's Creed, like they're working basically on 3 or 4 games at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So who is at the head of that pyramid? I don't know.
Who does exactly?
And the same thing, like Call of Duty, they're working on at least 2 games at a time.
And so there is no one person with that vision. I don't know. It depresses me a little bit. Of course, always. Get over it. Thanks for the pat on the shoulder. Here's some good news. Infamous Second Son sold over 1 million copies in 9 days.
You were right.
I was right?
Yeah. What do you mean he was right?
He liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He was right for liking it? Your score was right, Bloodworth.
1 million Daniel Bloodworths, can't be wrong.
Weird thing is that Blood showed me this press release that announced that Second Son had 1 million pre-orders a while ago. What does that mean about pre-orders? If a game that had 1 million pre-orders takes 9 days to sell 1 million copies?
It's pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
Some people just waited to go to GameStop till like the end of the week to pick up their copies.
Sure, I guess. And then no
UPS,
one else,
man, blame UPS.
but no one else who didn't pre-order the game bought it.
I just think it's, I think there's probably a lot of people out there that don't see a lot of risk in pre-ordering.
I think that's it.
They
I think pre-orders mean nothing.
Stick their money down and they're like, well, maybe I'll get it, or maybe I'll just shift it over to a different game if it doesn't turn out well.
Yeah. This makes me distrust pre-order statistics anymore. Just like, oh, this game is doing great in pre-orders. I guess it's a good way to gauge interest, but clearly not an accurate way to gauge interest.
Maybe like 900,000 pre-orders were sold, and like the game sold like 1.1 million, but they just rounded it up and down.
Still, it would make me so unhappy if like that's the ratio of people who pre-order to people who walk into a store and buy. Like maybe they count Amazon pre-orders, but I'm not sure they do. When you say we have,
that's the thing. Like a lot of these stats, like we don't even know where they come from, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I have no idea other than the people giving out the press release, like where 1 million pre-orders came from, because they're combining all of these different things that nobody else has access to.
Just thought of another thing. That's odd to me. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this, but no Titanfall announcement yet about its sales. Is that a bad sign?
Probably.
Damiani, are you willing to chime in on this one?
I think them not tooting their own horn is not the best sign.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily means it did like bad. It might just not have. I think if the number's like under like 1 million or something, like the audience they're going for might view it as like, oh, like Call of Duty sells millions. You couldn't even sell like 1 million. Oh, forget this game. I'm going back. Some stupid thing like that. Who knows what they're thinking? But the fact that they're being silent, it's not encouraging. But it doesn't necessarily signal like, oh, doom and gloom. But how, like this Thursday you will have already seen the NPD results. So
by the time this
goes
sure.
up, so
Right.
Let us know in the comments like how if we were on or off about that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're right in that I think they wouldn't even be happy with 1 million. I think for that game, it'd be like, oh, only 1 million? And like, that is a ton. For considering how many next-gen consoles are out there right now, 1 million is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at Infamous actually doing that. I mean, that's, 1 out of every 6 people?
Yeah.
Basically. That's a pretty good ratio.
Like, for buying that game, you're right, yeah. I think Forza did similarly well, or even better, too. It's cool to see any game get 1 million a few months after its launch. Brandon, you're nodding happily. Are you happy this game sold so well?
Well, it's good. It's good that people are buying into both the next gen. I like that they're. I mean, it's the Sony's ahead, right? It's the PS4 is beating the Xbox One currently in sales.
Yes, that's very correct. Yes.
But I mean, it's still. I mean, they're not neck and neck, but like they're both doing well, and it's. I'm just stoked. Right. I'm stoked that. I'm not surprised at all that 1 in 6 bought it, because it's like, what are you gonna, just look at your PS4? It's like, you gotta play something. And it's like how long? It takes you 3 days to beat the game. If you're playing, So it's like, you're gonna be waiting around to play good stuff. So it's good that people are supporting it.
Yeah, it is. It is very exciting. Especially.
I'll stop nodding. I'm sorry, am I distracting you?
No, I like your nods.
Should I sit where Mike is?
They're very
Maybe
supportive.
Less noticeable.
I can't even see his head. I hate this table. This table makes me so angry that we're just like flat. It makes me feel like we're like presenting to the audience instead of having a conversation too. That's what I wanted. I wanted us to be having a conversation today.
This is a meeting, Kyle.
I feel like it's a meeting.
We're having a business meeting.
We're in a conference room. Interesting trivia. This is like where we debate our countdowns.
Yep.
This is the room in which we like get angry.
I was
at
sitting
each other.
there, and you were sitting there.
The more fights happen in this room than any other room in the office.
That's true.
More crying, more shouting.
Countdowns never get as good as fights, man. Maybe like 3 or 4 times a year we get a good someone's really upset. Usually it's Ben Moore. Ben Moore gets really upset.
He gets real upset. Honestly, I think we had like the most fighting for Man Babes. I think that was like the most heated, the most arguing.
Including about the countdown itself.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's another story altogether.
With like 3DS games, we kind of just like threw things into their slots pretty easily. Like we all kind of agreed. Man Babes, there was no agreement on that.
It was hot in that room.
It's hot in this room. Weird story. Todd Stashwick, he's an actor on Justified, friends with Amy Hennig. He's co-writing Visceral's Star Wars game with Amy Hennig. I guess the weird thing about this is all the weird little in-betweens. This is why I picked the story for this week. We never covered this on the show. Amy Hennig left Uncharted 4 to go work on Star Wars. She's that game's new creative director, the one that Visceral is working on. Going to be like supposedly a single-player, story-driven Star Wars game, which I'm really excited about.
That's
more excited for that than Uncharted 4. But here's the weird thing: this guy, Todd Stashwick, I don't think he was ever officially announced. I don't think there was a press release that said Todd Stashwick is in this game. He was the voice of the one teaser trailer they had. He's the guy narrating that.
You mean for Uncharted?
For Uncharted 4.
Okay.
Did I say something else?
You didn't say.
The teaser trailer. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, there's a teaser trailer for that Star Wars
I know,
game?
let's go watch it. No, that doesn't exist yet. Soon, hopefully. But basically, the way, like, he was strangely open about, like, tweeting, like, motion capture stuff from the new Uncharted 4. And he would do, like, hashtag Uncharted 4, hashtag it's official, and, like, tweeting himself in motion capture stuff. He doesn't do that anymore. He's not tweeted anything about Uncharted 4, and there's been no real announcements about like him in the game or what his character is or role. Do you think maybe he left with Amy to go work on that Star Wars game?
Who knows? I don't know.
Like, will that guy we don't know be in Uncharted 4, and does that matter to anyone here at this table?
Yeah, I don't know that it matters much to me.
Do you consider him a loss if he's not involved in Uncharted 4?
I guess it's
that bad for Uncharted 4?
What I think is interesting is like this relationship he built with Amy. Do you know what I mean? Like they are clearly friends. She clearly respects him, wants him to help him come right with her on the Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Clearly respects this guy, and also makes me wonder how far along Uncharted 4 was. You know?
Well, I mean, again, because that could be another thing where like, well, this part of things is done.
Yeah. If your bet is true and it comes out in October, hopefully they're all done with motion capture now.
And also like, motion capture and a writing gig are hugely different things. So, I mean, if you have a chance to actually like have some creative input on something rather than, taking direction and doing gymnastics.
That's all motion capture is to you, is taking direction and doing gymnastics?
No, I mean it's but it is a lot of that. I mean,
sure.
There's emotional moments, but a lot of it is just like, okay, scramble up this thing, so that we have some going up a rock or a log or something like that, and just getting all of those different nuances down, or taking a shot from a bullet, or
yeah, dude, I'm not doing that and going to work on a Star Wars game at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna choose one or the other, I think.
But I mean, you could do both. I'm
not sure you could do both.
I think you could do both. Go and do that, and then go back and start writing. Yeah.
Should we do a side bet? I want to make a bet.
A bet about what?
That Todd Stashwick does not appear in Uncharted 4.
Okay.
In the credits, you mean?
No, in the game.
How would you know he was in the game? He'd have to be in the credits. He could be some old man in the corner. You wouldn't know it was him.
Fine, I bet.
Yeah, I mean,
couldn't he
just be like Pedestrian 4 or something?
I don't know, because you're right. Uncharted 4 has to be at least far along enough where you can't just cut him out of the game, right? You could cut a director, I guess, but you can't cut like somebody who's already done all this motion capture and tweeted about it. He's going to be in the game. That would be a bad bet. Damiani was face-palming over that one.
You're addicted to betting, Kyle.
I'm addicted to betting. You a Stashwick fan, Damiani?
I'm indifferent.
That's all I wanted. I just wanted to hear Damiani say he's indifferent about this guy. Anyway, another thing Kevin brought up in this article is that Amy Hennig recently tweeted this picture of Dominic Monaghan, who's like, he's semi-popular actor. He's like done a lot of interviews where he says he wants to be in the Star Wars movie, and J.J. Abrams is like, no, I don't want any stars in the Star Wars movie. You can't do it. Maybe like a guest appearance.
That's kind of funny to me to consider Dominic a star, because I mean, he's done some big things, but he's not like Tom Cruise or something. It's not like I'm going to be distracted because oh my gosh, it's Dominic Monaghan. I can't take him seriously as a Jedi. You know?
Are you suggesting maybe J.J. Abrams was just being kind? And saying, no, it's just, I don't want you in because of stars. You're too famous. I'm sorry, Dominic. Anyway, this to me, Amy Hennig meeting Dominic, this guy who wants to be in Star Wars so bad, kind of implies maybe he's settling to be in the Star Wars game. Is that a fair assumption?
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, maybe not necessarily settling, but get in however you can get in.
Sure, yeah.
You know? I mean, if this is going to be a big cinematic, single-player experience or whatever, then yeah, there's plenty of room for real actors.
I mean, Kyle Katarn, created for a video game, now was swinging with Mara Jade as expanded fiction. Well, of course, all the expanded fictions, being thrown in a giant bonfire.
Yeah, that's all non-canon.
But,
that
there
was
is a possibility.
For Jedi Knight?
Kyle Katarn was for not Jedi Knight, that was the sequel, Dark Forces.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you were Kyle Katarn.
Really pretty cool.
And now he's
I'm
like,
right with that. And then he became like an actual
him
character.
and Luke Skywalker are like this.
No, they're not.
I mean, not really, not in the movie universe, but in the games, yeah.
Luke Skywalker is in the Jedi Knight games?
Yeah, he's in. He might have like a cameo. I know he's in Jedi Academy, which I think was the fourth one.
Cameo doesn't mean
all right.
you get to like cross your
Dark
fingers.
Forces discussion. I usurped the show. We're talking about Star Wars.
Before we move on, I want to ask the table one thing.
John Williams, Star Wars. What else?
Yeah, no, I love the Star Wars talk. Would any of us at the table stayed at Uncharted 4 if you were offered to do your own Star Wars game?
Hell no.
Blood. Would you have stayed on Uncharted 4, your assured sequel, or go make your own Star Wars game?
I don't.
Wow.
I don't know.
You're not able to, like, what would you would just say, I don't know, and, like, turn down both paychecks?
I would. What do you mean turn down both? I mean, if I was already working on something, I would probably want to finish it.
Okay. You're lost, man.
Yeah.
No, you're committed. That's your fate now. Damiani, which one would you pick?
Use the Force.
Yeah, easily. To me, that's like the easiest decision. When Amy left Uncharted 4, it was like, oh my gosh, they're probably in trouble. What's going on? But now to me, like, oh, she went to Star Wars? Yes, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, someone in her position, like those creative types, a lot of those that I have met personally, like the main thing that fuels them is like, I want to build something. I want to take something that's like, this is stupid. And then like, no, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. I can do this. That's why when people always make fun of like, Aquaman was always a great example of DC. It was like, Aquaman. I could make you an amazing Aquaman movie. And like, that's what's exciting about that is like, let me prove it. You think Star Wars is dead? Just wait. Like, that's totally what, Abrams wakes up every day just being like, just wait. Like, we have a lot of great ideas, like we have a lot of freedom. Like, I haven't seen George in weeks, it's like we're really, we can do whatever we want.
That's a funny thing. Actually, so my favorite comic is Hawkeye right now because he's like totally lame character usually, but they like look at him as this lame guy and he's aware of it. He's aware that he's Hawkeye and it like makes for a good Hawkeye. I like this kind of thing where it's just like there are way less expectations on this kind of thing as there are to Uncharted 4 where there's a lot of expectations of what that's going to be.
And it's much harder to kind of steer that franchise in a new direction and keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Than just totally, the blue sky. It's like,
yeah.
You can do whatever you want. You have all the Lego pieces out on the table and start from scratch.
Dominic Monaghan's knocking on your door.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only concession. You got to have him in it. But then you can do whatever you want.
I feel like Samuel L. Jackson, didn't he like say to George Lucas, like, I want to be in the Star Wars movie. I will be a stormtrooper if necessary, but like put me in it. Is that a true story?
I've heard that story. I don't know if it's a true story.
I know he got to pick his lightsaber color.
Yeah,
he's like, I have a purple one. And George is like, they don't have purple lights. He's like, I got a purple one. He's like, okay, purple it is.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with your impression of him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that bad?
I got a purple one is all you made him say.
Yeah. I've seen his tweets. He's abrupt. He doesn't say in 20 words what,
You're
20
right.
characters what it'll take.
And that's what makes him Samuel L. Jackson. He's allowed to say, I want the purple lightsaber and just get it. Dominic Monaghan, not that kind of influence. Last thing, Ubisoft E3 press conference dated. It's going to be on Monday again this year, and it's going to be at 3 p.m. again this year. That is the exact same thing as last year.
Are they all on the same day, do we think? Did that happen last year?
Last year, yeah, it was 4 on Monday, even Sony, and then Nintendo's little stream was on Tuesday. That was an intense day.
That day was
especially
rough.
for people in our jobs.
Yeah, that was a rough day.
That was a rough day. That's a good question. Do you think they'll do that again?
Yeah, I think that, yes.
Because I feel like now E3 is about like hashtags. We want to be trending on Twitter is like what E3 is about now. And it's just like, it does make sense, honestly, to all be on the same day. Damiani, what's your opinion on this?
I mean, I like having them all back to back to back. Just watching it, I don't know if that would like make sense. I mean, I think everyone's going to go at the same time, or roughly, because EA was the first to announce they're going, and they're going on Monday, and then now Ubisoft's following suit. I've seen a lot of like discussion about whether Microsoft should like concede and let Sony go first this time, and they go after Sony so that they can have like
Microsoft is actually typically first in the morning.
So they'd be like, hey guys, like you guys were really good last year, like are you that like Sony's like
why don't you
like Sony, they'd be like, are you guys seem confident, why don't you guys go first? And Sony's gonna be like
on a variety
like,
show. It's like you had a
sure.
good bit. Why don't you open this week?
Like Phil Spencer goes over and he's like, hey, we want you guys to go first this year. How would you do that? And they're like, yeah, we'll go first. We're gonna have Antonio Banderas host our award show.
Phil Spencer is acting confident about E3 this year.
I think they learned their lesson last year. I think they'll come out with the right stuff that people want to hear.
Halo 2?
Halo 2 coming out
is
October 12th.
Yeah.
Let's pick that date.
Sure.
No, but I'm excited. The press conferences for me are still like the best part of E3. Because that's when like all the news, all the new things are being shown. I mean, it's, in our job, it's cool to get to play games early, but it's always been a pet peeve of mine, only getting like a small taste of a game. Like when I play it, and if I like it, I'm like, I just want to play the rest of this, and like I have to wait maybe years to ever touch this again or play the finished version. Like, nope. Like that part doesn't really excite me as much.
Nobody has seen the Witcher demo I saw last year.
You're right.
No
Witcher game, like raw gameplay.
There's been some blurry video that leaked like late last summer, I think, around Gamescom, but that's it.
And I think seeing that stuff is cool. Like the waiting in line for hands-on or waiting for an appointment for hands-on. Like the hands-on part doesn't excite me as much anymore as getting to see the new stuff. That's what I like to see, and like I like seeing it in the press conference and seeing it with like the rest of the world getting like excited about that type of stuff. And it feels like for me there's a little bit of a withdrawal once the press conference is over. It's like, oh, now we have to actually go to work and go to E3. It's like, oh, the fun part's over.
Yeah, honestly, I wish they came on 5 different days. Like today is Ubisoft Day, and we just celebrated that day.
It's like Hanukkah.
Yeah, it's like a wonderful little 5 days of video game miracles. Yeah, I wish that were the case because some things do get usurped. Basically, it is kind of unkind to put them all on the same day. I feel like soon they'll put them on the same time.
Oh, that would be bad.
No, I mean, they'll never do that, of course.
The thing that I've always noticed about E3 is that, like, we build up towards E3 so much. We think about it. We do top 10 lists, like, what are the games going to be? What do we want to see? What are your predictions? Who's going to say what? And it's like, oh, E3's happening. And then it is over so fast. Like you were saying, like, that withdrawal hits
hurts
so hard.
It hurts.
You open your Christmas presents, you just rip the wrapping off. So, like, that's why nobody was going to go on day 2, because it's like the second that first thing happens, it's like you have until everyone goes to sleep, and then it's over. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk about something else. God forbid something terrible happens, like a natural disaster or something, and then it's like, boom, there goes all your press, all the money you spent, all the rehearsal, all the writing, all the production. So it's like you only have that limited window, and I think everybody wants to get in. So it's like, it's not just that we all get to trend on Twitter. I want to beat someone on Twitter. Like I don't want to get announced the 2 days after that other shooter showed their first footage. I want to go the same day and beat them. So then, I don't get the more rays of the sun. They get none.
No, I love that.
It.
It's kind of like when movie studios are plotting out their schedules. They're like strangely kind to each other. They don't like to compete on weekends. And what's that one that's coming up? It's Captain America 3 and the dumb Batman Superman. I'm so excited about that weekend.
Marvel versus DC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm excited that they're willing to go head-to-head, and I could see why, like, a movie fan doing a movie fan podcast would be like, I really wish they would do second weekends so they both get, like, an equal chance. But I realize how lame that sounds now. It's good they're all on the same day, isn't it? So the strongest survives the hype cycle.
Well, I mean, with the show itself, again, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I would prefer if like the show shifted over a day, and then we had 2 days for the press conferences to kind of be spread out, and then we'd have like a 3-and-3 type split.
Was it ever like that? I can't remember.
I don't think so, but it would be that E3 started later on the first day to make room for the press conferences.
Yeah, I just think there's so much that people are doing for the press conferences that like they don't even want to think of doing anything the same day as like actually going to the show.
Sure.
So I think those will always be separated. But
wow, we might have another busy Monday ahead of us.
I'm sad to think about your idea. I really like that about the 5 days.
The 5 days of video game miracles.
6 days.
Sure.
Then the sixth one is like everyone else.
Yeah, let's give Konami a press conference again.
Square Enix gets an hour that day.
Yeah.
It's like hour to Capcom.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yay,
I am excited. Are you all feeling excited?
I'm always excited for E3.
Like all year
E3 was
round?
the best.
Yeah. Once you like open your presents, you're
E3 's
like
the
already
best.
excited.
And
for
you guys have to understand, E3 was like 95, 96 was the first E3, somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was like 2001 when we like started, we're like building GameTrailers, like putting the concept together. And my friend Mike Buddy, who does camera stuff for us, was like, "Oh yeah, we should go to E3." And I'm like, "What?" It was like 2001. I like never heard of it, and I was like addicted to video games. I read EGM every issue, and just like didn't sink in that like there's this huge event, and I grew up in
Next
Los
door.
Angeles.
Yeah.
It's like in your neighborhood, and so like ever since I found out like, oh my god, I can get into this thing. Yeah. It's really fun. It's Christmas. It's better than Christmas. I get more excited for E3 than I do for Christmas.
Have you ever been to a press conference live?
Yeah.
In the audience?
Yeah.
Which one? Would you bet? What was your favorite one?
Just weird, stupid things like when we first started out, the first couple of years.
No, what is? Give me the weirdest, stupidest one then. What was the good one?
Midway in Vegas. I had to like go and bring like all the equipment. It was like a one-day thing.
I
I
used to
remember
be in the Nintendo conference every year, so.
So had you seen the one where Twilight Princess was first shown?
Oh yeah, I was there.
Were you crying?
I actually have a audio recording of that somewhere.
Were you in tears?
I was not in
Bloodworth?
tears. No.
Okay. For the record, I've never seen you in tears, but I feel like maybe that would be the time.
Step on his toe or something.
I was totally shocked though, because like when I first started running, I wasn't sure what it was. It's like, is this Fire Emblem? I don't know.
You know what that moment was? I feel like that moment was Nintendo. It does kiddie games. They only do disappointing kiddie games, and this was like, here's that game you all want.
Right.
I feel like they have an opportunity right now to do that exact same thing again. Maybe not with Zelda, but like here's that thing everybody wants. We know, here it is.
Well, that was Sony last year. That's why it was so gratifying. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, they did it. It's
Gratifying.
like that's the kind of thing usually that like some guy will eke out of someone in like a shaky cam interview in the hallway or something. Like he said that on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think there is
that's
something
what
to
people
that.
want. Yeah, it's the best. That's what you hope happens. Like a fight in hockey.
Damiani, sorry, before we move on from E3, what is the best possible outcome of Nintendo's press conference or stream, I guess? It's most likely going to be a stream. What is that thing they could say and say, hey, everybody, we understand. Here it is. He thinks hard.
HD Zelda, right?
He processes
No,
something.
that's not enough.
That's not enough?
Zelda is not enough.
But it could be amazing. I mean, not just on
it
its own,
could
but it
be-
could blow your mind. I mean,
Without trolling, like my usual trolling self, I actually don't think there's anything they could say to make Wii on Wii U's end.
Yeah, I actually...
If they want to knock the press conference out of the out of the ballpark, they're gonna lead off with 3DS stuff, or they'll get Wii U. No, they should do 3DS first.
Okay.
They're gonna announce Majora's Mask 3D.
Absolutely.
So the internet will go nuts.
Sure.
So they already won the internet
We're
right
on a
there.
high, we're hashtagging.
Like NeoGAF
Sure.
crashes,
Yep.
our site's struggling to stay up. The
Yep,
trailer
yep.
can't get up fast enough. So Majora's Mask, you got Majora's Mask right there.
I'm there.
Then you're going to get the release date for Smash Bros. And they're going to announce the more third party characters, the last ones that they've been saving.
Oh,
So
another-
they got one up their sleeve.
Great
they're
CG trailer.
Like the one character, whoever, and a god tiered trailer for that. So Smash Bros. Is gonna be amazing.
Okay, so we're about 15 minutes in at this point.
And then they need to I don't know. Sorry, for Wii U, I just can't think of what they can do. They can show off Zelda. If they show off Zelda, it's going to be maybe they have to do exactly what you said, with Twilight Princess. Here's the Zelda game you've been waiting for. No more motion controls for all you crybabies like Damiani out there who don't like motion controls. And here's the dark, brooding look that you've been waiting for since Twilight Princess because you guys don't like colors in your Zelda games like Damiani. And it is nothing like the Wind Waker because clearly people out there hate that game like Damiani. So here's the Zelda game you've been waiting for. I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And
they should have
it'll
you
look
present
amazing.
it even.
Like it's gonna be like a awesome trailer and stuff. It's gonna show like combat and everything. It's gonna look great. It's gonna show like new items. It's gonna be all awesome and stuff. And it's gonna have like those cool moments like the Twilight Princess, like not the original reveal, but the one of the last ones.
Where he flips the sword and puts it in the sheath.
Yeah, like it was the GDC 2005 one with the wolf howling at the end.
Yeah.
Or the E3 one where they showed like the actual like they actually finally showed Zelda in the trailer. They'll show like characters you want to see, like Zelda, and there's like Ganon. Oh shit, this is like amazing looking and stuff.
Yeah.
But that sadly still won't be enough.
Yeah, I don't know honestly if what you described would have an impact because I think a lot of people would still be Wii U.
This is what people really want to see. Oh look, Nintendo's working on a new console of some sort, and like this is our big secret. This is our big reveal. Here's a new console and stuff, and like. This isn't going to happen, so this is trolling again. They have a new console there, and then like, hey, look, here's like EA having like whatever new like Battlefield or Star Wars Battlefront 3 is running on this new system already. Look at this first footage of it. Here's like Kingdom Hearts 3 running on it too, and Final Fantasy 15.
That is what it would take, though. That is honestly what it would take for us to
I think
explode
that's
again.
it.
It's like this nonsense shit that will never happen.
It
That's
would
what it
take
would take.
Yeah.
It would take more than one game. It'd have to take
Here's-
something that really proves that like they've got everyone on board and like
Here's
you could
the
buy a
Witcher
Wii U and that
3.
would be just fine to be your only system.
Which you're right, will just never happen.
The Witcher 3
Although I do
on
want to start
this
a
new
podcast
system.
called Nonsense Shit, where we just let down.
That is this podcast.
It's that gift that everyone had a few years ago with all the third parties. It was just a Ruby Rod from Fifth Element.
I'm not gonna find that GIF. Don't talk about it.
It was hilarious. Where he's just walking down and he's like naming off all the like exclusives.
I do remember that GIF.
So it'd be like Witcher 3 is gonna
It's
be
like
on
Pokemon
there.
MMO. Yeah, that was funny. That was a good GIF,
I mean,
actually.
that wasn't on that one, but like shit like that. Like Witcher 3 is gonna be on there. Yeah, I get excited. Nope, that's not happening.
Before we finish, I just thought of another interesting piece of trivia. This is a good trivia episode. Damiani, didn't you perform Zelda on stage at E3? Twilight Princess?
When you
No,
say
it's not Twilight
perform,
Princess.
What were you performing?
Four Swords.
you
right?
mean no, you're both wrong, and you mean like playing, right?
Yeah.
So you don't like the word like skit, right, or sketch, or which one you don't like? Skit?
I'll accept both of those words for the sake of this conversation.
No, there's like a word.
It wasn't Four Swords. What was it?
It wasn't Four Swords. Like it was showing off, demonstrating.
Demonstrating, yeah.
Yes, no,
Performing.
it was Phantom Hourglass.
Oh, you were, and you don't like that game.
That was 2007.
So you were on stage. You were the guy doing little swipes.
Okay, so you guys will know because we have DS capture devices here,
Yeah.
and that's essentially what I had to play on. So you know how that like stupid thing is with the giant cords and like
Right.
it. You
No,
have, you
explain
have to
that
hold
stupid
it.
thing to anyone who's like listening. Or
Okay,
whatever.
so I was giving them a frame of reference,
Yeah.
but for those of you who don't know it, there the capture device is a giant rectangular box, and because it's dual screen, they have two giant cables that run into the DS and also the 3DS that we have. And it's very like those cables are very like firm and like tough, so you have to like it's not the easiest to hold. Like it's a little bit heavier, and you have to like it. You can't like move it as much, like the range and stuff. This is not like as not as like flexible and like easy to use as like a regular like system that you have for commercial use. Anyway, the point is, I had to play that not holding it. They had to put it down on a table. And then to make matters worse, I apparently had to play with only one hand because my other hand was like I couldn't hold it like this. And the guy had like they had some whatever, I forget why. It was either a camera shot they needed,
it was probably
and
for
I
the
had to
camera,
like
sure.
I had to like lean like this basically. If you can't see me, like I'm to the right of the microphone tilting my head because originally I was supposed to like talk or some crap. So like you have to like talk, so you can't be just like staring down at it playing it like ignoring us. Like that won't look good on stage and stuff. Like you have to like be like playing and stuff. So and they wanted it over to shoulder shot. That's why they wanted it over
Yep.
to shoulder shot to get it. And my hand was blocking part of the screen if I held it. So like,
Yep.
can you just like play with like your right hand with the stylus and then like use your fingers to play? So I was like, yeah, sure, okay, cool. Let me just like practice this part. So there's a part where I was supposed to start because they didn't want to show too much. So there's something before you entered the dungeon. They gave the dungeon name, and there was like a small little like cutscene.
Sure. You
And
can't-
they
can't
didn't want to show
yeah.
that, so like they had played to the part where we're gonna start, and then don't go past this part to show like the boss cutscene. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty easy. So on top of all this weird, awkward like playing conditions, someone had messed with it when I got up there to start playing it live, and it was not in the right spot. Like Link had been moved. Like I had it memorized for where to go, and he was out of position in this one spot. And I was like, oh, what the heck? Where am I? I'm like, oh, let me just start moving. I was like, please go the right direction, because I think if I went the other direction, it would have like screwed something up.
Yeah.
So I luckily went the right direction to start. I was like, okay, good. Here, I know where I am now and stuff. and then just had to play it, and he had like the end, but that was really it. And
That's a cool memory. To me, it sounds like we having a Zelda game that is impossible to play for any normal human. Someone called Damiani.
Thank you, Reggie. Good morning, everybody. Having such a prolific Zelda player on stage here to play Phantom Hourglass for me makes my job a little bit easier, so I'm glad you're here, Mike.
He's the only one who can possibly wrap his one hand around it and play this game one-handed.
Yeah, that was that was a weird thing.
No, I remember that E3, but I didn't know you at all at that time. So
Yeah,
that sounds like a bet right there. Can he beat Ocarina of Time one-handed on the N64?
Damiani, yes, I believe he totally can with one hand. Anybody can do it within 2 hours, too.
No, it would probably take like a long ass time to do that.
That's a cool story. Thanks for sharing it, but we should conclude our show with, of course, always our closing bet, our big bet.
Oh.
As Damiani stated earlier, we're learning about NPDs later this week. It's going to be huge for games. Actually, this is 1 week where I'm curious where the games end up, because we do have Infamous and Titanfall and Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. But the one I'm curious about is Dark Souls 2. In the NPD top 10, where will Dark Souls 2 lie? Where will it end up? Brandon, I'm doing a new thing. Because you always complain about not winning bets. You get to choose right now whether you want to go first or last.
To pick?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Okay. So where will Dark Souls 2 be on the top 10?
10.
Okay. I'll go.
I was really going to say it wasn't going to be on there, but that
You can totally do that. That's legit. You could say that.
10.
I'll say 7.
Blood is really thinking about this.
It's to Damiani, though.
Oh, yeah. I will pick. Let's think about what all that came out last month. Timefall definitely sold more than it.
Quick.
Ground Zeroes.
You're
I
losing
don't think
time.
Titanfall did.
You don't? Yeah, actually, you might be right. I'm going to guess 6.
Okay.
Oh, crap. That was mine. I guess I'll go higher on that then. I'll go 5.
5. Okay. We're all locked in. Lock them in. Bet's locked in. Let's talk about last week's bet. We bet what would be the last game in the Omegathon of PAX last weekend.
Oh, year. Yeah.
What year? Yeah, what year that game came out. The last game of the Omegathon from PAX East was Cornhole, which, if you're not familiar, is where you throw a little bag of sand into some hole cut out into a slant of wood. Really popular in the South.
So how in the world, like, when did they, I don't know when
So,
they came
yeah, I
up
looked
with
it up on
Cornhole.
Wikipedia. Here's the history of Cornhole. The history of the game is mostly unknown, though stories abound. One story claims that the game was first played during the 14th century in Germany, then rediscovered in Ohio within the last century. I don't know. And also there's like records of like Native Americans playing something similar with like pig organs. Blood guessed a 1992, and that is the winning bet. That's the closest thing to 14th century that we guessed. So, Blood, it is your responsibility now to close out the show.
Okay. Yeah. I forget all of the accoutrements to go with that. But here are all our Twitter handles.
That's right.
There's a bunch of things popping up on the screen. We're on Thursdays. We got the podcast going. And I'm supposed to talk about one of my things, but I haven't actually did anything.
Plug a video.
What
You can plug a review, at least.
I guess I can plug the review. The Trials Fusion review, if you want to see some of the crazy trial stuff. By the way, a little trivia tidbit is that I was being very seriously attacked for not giving the game a 10 in the office.
Within the office,
Within the
internally,
office,
yeah.
yes. I had actually fight that argument, which was funny to me. It's like, in 2 years, you're going to look back and you see you missed this opportunity.
You're really dragging out your clothes
I'm dragging out. But anyways, yeah, so have a good week and good night and good luck and whatever else we're supposed to say.
That's it. I'm just posing.
This is my super awkward episode.
Yeah. No, that was a great episode. That was a fine close at the end. Cool.